question was, what do I know about Nibiru? And it's a great question posed by this particular individual at this time because of the research that I've been doing. And we got a facts back that actually came from, believe it or not, outer space and another planet, and they verified everything that I've been teaching you guys. I've learned so much from watching sports. But if you guys have been paying attention to sports, there was another annuity that dropped. You guys know I follow the annuities not just for the entertainment, but for the actual research that it provides because 1 to 0 annuities represent facts. That's why I love them. Other scoring levels represent credits, debts, all types of different levels to it. But I love the 1 to 0 annuity because this is the time where you get all kind of information from sports and why these teams were even created and placed in these different areas and given these different names. But you had an Oakland Athletics annuity and a Tigers annuity that, from my research, has been one of the most amazing annuities of yet that I've seen as far as finance stuff that this thing is going to cover. And it actually ties into what the particular individuals asking me to make a video about Nibiru. And Nibiru is, from what you guys probably already know, it's supposed to be this planet that's going to come back at a particular time and become visible in our solar system. And it's going to make us have, instead of 9 planets, supposedly 10 planets that are viewable from our perspective. However, when you get to research what Nibiru actually is, you'll find out that it already came back a while ago. And what happened was is that when it came back, the information, the technology that was left in place from Nibiru was given to particular groups in what you would call the so-called Mesoamericas, or in what you would call the Olmec area or the Aztec region, which from my research, they found out that this particular land was designed as a craft or some form of a ship. And when the Nibiru came back in this particular time, it already happened, believe it or not. You'd have to study what really happened with Christopher Columbus. And when he supposedly discovered America, of which he really discovered a ship. And in this ship, they began to go back and forth into different dimensions, and they were able to leave and change their age. And the thing is that it's hard to really, how can I put this? It's hard to really get a lot of proof from it because every time they would shift, they bring everything in a particular area though with them. And this is when they got into learn about what Nibiru actually is. They said it was a craft that had other, it's supposed to be a planet, but it's really a craft, right? But come to find out, Nibiru was actually linked and locked into land, and it already came back. And I was going into a little bit more information about the moon and what you are viewing as the moon is actually you're viewing, believe it or not, a reflection of Nibiru. That's been going on for before you even born. So they lied to you about the universe. They don't want to tell you how this stuff got out here. They want you to believe that it was all created at once. They just said, let us make man, but you have no documents of this, believe it or not, of proving that this was all created at once. You have no documents proving this. Nothing on this planet is created at once. Think about it. Everything is created in this so-called planet looks like it evolves, even though that's, believe it or not, a program, an application that these particular beings learn how to tap into. So Nibiru, what you think is Nibiru, has been discovered, already came back. And what's really they're talking about when they revealed it or re-revealed it, and they kind of coded it and let Zachariah Stitch and all these people discover these plates. They let them do that, believe it or not, because they didn't want to tell you the truth. And the fact of the matter is that they re-revealed it because they were trying to stop our acts. They were trying to help us to keep our access to Nibiru, and that's why they put the information out. Because what was happening at that time was that we were losing access or communication to technology and certain money. And I want to really talk about the future because nobody should be broke because there's money out in the universe. I'm actually like communicating, man. It's amazing I've gotten to this point to be able to communicate with beings of higher intelligence in the universe. And I know for a fact when I went on that time machine yesterday, that's what caused this annuity. That's why I'm making this video. I know it because this links into the new energy that's coming or whatever. So That was my proof that I traveled through time. It had to be some form of proof presented. And it was facts to me. So this episode is about, and it links into the Bureau. So what happens is that they wanted you to keep your access to the info though, because what was they were trying to stop is this block that would happen would be similar to a door closing. And you would see like a door or whatever, and this block represents a door closing. At that particular time, when they started putting out information about Nibiru, the door was closing, and it's actually, I'm not going to go into whether or not it's open or closed because I don't want to scare anyone here, but it's actually even worse now than what they were worried about when they first started revealing information about this new planet, because they wanted you to know about it because your memory is how this planet moves, the collective group of certain people. So they have to put it back into your consciousness, and they let these people reveal it, not knowing that we were going to get to this point. And what I mean by this point is that we can get to the point where this particular craft called Nibiru that once was taking us on this voyage stops. And you're like, what do you mean taking us? That's right. You're depending on where you're at, you could be referenced to being on Nibiru right now. Because what I'm telling you is that Christopher Columbus, what he thought he discovered in the Americas was really going into UFOs. You even see some photos and old photos that's going back into like the 1400s, and they got UFOs in the background. Why would they put that there? These photos were created in the 14. You got to start studying photography. These photos were created in the 1400s, some of them 1300s. They got UFOs like clearly in the background, and it's clearly an old photo, and it's clearly been preserved in a museum somewhere as proof. Why? Because that's what he really discovered. And not only that, he discovered that we were on that same voyage, and this is when they called it the New World. Remember, he kept saying, I want to go to the New World. And they thought he was just talking about America because he was from England, never traveled. That's a lie. They don't want you to know that we're in the cave days. And through this machine could cause certain processes of bringing back technology that you don't want to see. Stuff that you may think is a myth, animals and stuff that you may not want to see. So this new annuity that dropped or whatever is amazing. It does tie into Nibiru. I really wish I could reveal more, but I just want to kind of lay a backdrop again to keep everything copacetic. But as far as preserving my time and being able to give you the best out of your time, so I think I'm gonna wait, go ahead and shut down now and put out some more information about it. But that latest annuity is proving some of the stuff that I'm saying. It's not what you think. You're waiting on something that already has happened. That's what's really happened is that we're losing access and slowly drifting back into prehistoric Atlantis. We're gonna have to some kind of way come back and swing that back around. If we go back into this prehistoric Atlantis state, we're gonna have to swing that back around and get out of that particular mud that we're starting to get in from losing access to certain Akashic records, certain records that would have helped you to keep your access and to keep your ability to be able to communicate with these particular planets and be able to still get information to keep progress going. What do you think creativity is when people invent stuff? Where do you think this comes from? You say they were just creative and genius. What is a genius? The root word of it is a genie or jinn. That's what they call it in another language. It comes from another language, believe it or not. Language of English is a bunch of languages compiled. So the term genie or jinn is essentially where this comes from, because they don't want you to know. They want you to be stuck. And they don't want you to have your access to your genius. That inner, you think it's a voice or some nut speaking, you think you're nuts, but this is your genius, and this is actually an entity in a realm. See, this is when people get scared, because they're like, okay, so you trying to tell me I'm hearing a voice, sometimes it could be a realm, or how do I know it's not just me? Okay, think about that. It's not just you. So how are you talking in your head? How? Well, I'm thinking it and I'm saying it. But where is this coming from? If you're having a conversation with yourself in your head, I really want to put this out because I've got to get into this new technology and people have to understand this. If you're really having a conversation with yourself, supposedly in your head, or with your so-called imaginary friend or whatever they want to, I'm saying this to be funny actually because they try to label people. And people are nuts though, don't get me wrong, because you have no access to the technology though. That's why you're nuts. So yeah, don't get me, oh yeah, it's people that are walking around talking themselves as 14 karat crazy. Believe I know that. But then there's a level of it where you get into science and experiment on a deep level where you may confide with yourself and you begin to question certain things. This is on a scientific level. Like, well, what is this that I'm really speaking with? And this can get to a point where it becomes an intelligence. They call it the Holy Spirit in the Bible because they didn't want you to know what it really was. They want to scare you, so they have to label everything. God controls it. Don't worry. God controls it. Don't worry. Nah, this is called the Holy Spirit, or something in you. Believe it or not, it's an entity, a being, a host of entities that come through you as a physical being, and it's connected to what's called your mind, of which I've always pointed out because one of my great teachers taught this to me. You don't know where it's at. My martial arts teacher, shout out to him, spiritual martial arts teacher. You don't know where your mind's at. He would always say that. Where is it at? They never discover. You know where your brain is. They don't have no records of the mind in the brain. All they have in the brain is records of what you remember. The brain to them, the way they explain it, is like an after effect of thought. It's what you see after the fact. So it's not taking you into like the mind or the collective consciousness of which is your genius, of which is located in a group of beings. See, this is when you start to find out that you're not alone. Not only are you not alone, but you're in this vessel as alone, believe it or not. So you're not alone, but you're in this vessel as alone until you figure out what you share this vessel with. And this is really what spiritual teachings are designed to do. So we're going into a new phase of time, and I want to kind of point this out before I shut down. The stories about Nibiru, this is something they really not going to tell you. I'm going to be kind of clear and quiet with this because it's a call. Makes time they coded type info. That these beings, the reason why they worshiped certain beings or whatever is because of, they said they were tall and because of height. But what really was is that certain entities and certain aspects of this planet were what you would call, we don't have this anymore. They got rid of it. This is when they actually started, you started to see certain planets manifest because they started getting rid of parts of the earth. And you had something called the lowlands. And certain planet, or the wastelands is what they called it at some point. And these beings that worship these gods, they would always come from, they would say on high. And they would say, God came from the sky, or whatever. These were a group of beings coming to another group of beings on lowland, bringing them information. And this actually eventually started a war. They'll tell you this stuff. It's not even in the history. They took it all out. And a lot of this earth, what you think is the earth, is a spaceship. They were fighting over this. And I got the facts back of proof of what I'm telling you from this annuity drop. I got way more information I can share with you. Because it's amazing to be able to really not just have to rely on somebody writing a book. That's why I love making these videos for you, because it's the future of how it's going to be. And I got to shut down now. But I'm going to say this last point. Of somebody just writing a book and then turning around this book and go ahead and recite what you just read in this book versus being able to communicate with a being or intelligence that saw it. Like, okay, so how did the pyramids get built? And you speculate, you go research stuff. What if you could just talk to someone that was like right there and watched it? That's what this is like, because you don't, see, what you don't understand is that as a historian, I gotta make one more point. You think that as a historian, that it stops at history. You can't, this is a quantum reality that you get into. You get yourself into a big bowl of shit. You think it's a game because you're going to start to find out portals open and you can begin to travel in time. So I'm going to go ahead and go. Time is out. Stay vigilant. Keep studying. Take care.